and it's no longer evidence that you are wrong or bad or broken. It's not a verdict on, who you are and how you are wired. It's just something that is happening. Welcome back to the Highly Sensitive Woman. Before we dive into today's topic, I want to share something with you, because if this conversation resonates, I think this will feel like a very natural next step. April 20th to the 25th, I am part of a free event, the One Step Healthier Summit, in partnership with Nan, my guest who spoke about making peace with food and your feelings earlier this year. And if you haven't listened to that 2-part conversation, I highly recommend that you push play, because it was a powerful interview. The One Step Healthier Summit is beautifully simple. It is just one short video a day, somewhere between 10 and 20 minutes from 5 different speakers. It's nothing overwhelming and nothing that you have to keep up with. Every conversation circles back to the same core idea that we are exploring today: feeling better without turning against yourself. Each day approaches it from a little bit different angle, releasing perfectionism, understanding why habits feel so hard, learning what your body actually needs, making movement feel accessible again, and finding more calm with food. They're different conversations with the same destination: feeling safe with yourself. I am speaking on day 1, and I would love for you to join us. You can sign up using the link in the show notes, and it is absolutely free. So let's dive into today's topic. And first, I just kind of want to paint the scene. You know her. Maybe she's at the dinner table next to you. She is across the room, or someone you follow online. It looks like she handles hard conversations without falling apart. She doesn't seem to replay them for days. She moves through the world like it doesn't cost her anything. And somewhere quietly inside you, there is a voice that says, "Why can't I be more like that?" That comparison that we all do every day, it is the very thing that is keeping you stuck. And this episode is not just another conversation where I tell you to stop comparing yourself, right? We have all heard that countless times in our lives. And if anything, it is just adding shame on top of something that already feels very heavy and just making it worse. Because if we could do that, we would have already done that, right? If it was just that simple to stop comparing. And instead, I want to spend today taking an honest look at what the comparison is actually doing to you and what it might be trying to protect you from. Because here's what I know to be true, and it took a lot of years for me to learn this for myself, and I see it over and over and over again with my clients. It's not that you are really comparing yourself to other women. What you're doing is using other women as evidence that there is something wrong with you and that they are right. And I don't really want to offer this toxic positivity or to tell you to just love yourself more. Again, if it were that simple, we would have moved on from this long ago, and you wouldn't be listening to this episode, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But what I really want to explore today is what happens when you declare war on the way that you feel, and what quietly becomes possible when you stop. So when you are comparing yourself to another woman, whether she is your friend or your colleague or someone you don't know and you just follow her online, whatever the case may be, you find yourself comparing who you are, how you look, how you function, all of those types of things. You are comparing yourself to this other woman, and you have created a mental catalog. She's the calm mom. She is the unbothered friend. She is the woman at work who never seems rattled. You tell yourself that she doesn't cry when she's angry. She doesn't spiral. She doesn't need a full day or a week or a month to recover after a hard conversation. And this compare and despair, and if that phrase is new to you, it's a good one, because that is what is happening. We are comparing and it is causing us despair. It's not random. It is very, very targeted. And you are scanning for evidence that you are the exception, that you are the one who can't cope. And I know this because I've done it and I still do it sometimes. And it feels like you want to be her. But what if that's not quite it? What if it's not becoming her that you really are seeking, and instead you really are just trying to get the suffering to stop? And that comparison that your brain has created, it's just a shortcut that it invented to explain the pain that you are feeling. And what you really want is relief. And what I want to say is that relief doesn't come from becoming someone else. Because when you think about it and you compare yourself to woman A and woman B and C and D and all of the women, and you say that all of them are right, but A and B aren't the same and C and D aren't the same. So how can all of them be right and you be the one who's wrong? And they can't all be right, right? What you're really wanting is some relief from that pain and suffering that you are feeling. And what would it mean if you never became her? Most of us don't even realize that what we are experiencing is a war within ourselves. What we think is that we're just trying to hold it together. And we all know what that looks like, right? You've got that mental commentary that is running alongside you with every action and reaction that you are having and asking, why am I like this? Your way of handling it, quote unquote, often looks like suppressing yourself, editing yourself, not actually moving through something, but instead trying to push it down and pretend like it's not there. You brace yourself before difficult conversations. You're already managing before anything has happened. That is what trying to hold it together and handle it looks like. And you're living in a very real, very constant state of exhaustion because your body is constantly trying to override what is naturally happening. So here's something worth considering, that maybe the woman or the women that you are comparing yourself to, maybe they're not more regulated. They're just simply better at hiding it from you publicly, right? Maybe they are falling apart entirely behind closed doors. I know I was when I had a very real breakdown, and I have talked about this before, and spent 6 years on disability and was a complete shell of a human. When that first happened, my friends said to me, we had no idea. You were so good at hiding it. And I was. And I wore that as a badge of honor, that no one knew, because I was so good at keeping it together publicly. So what if that woman you are comparing yourself to, maybe even envying, what if she's just that good at keeping it together or presenting it publicly, and behind closed doors, she's falling apart just like you are? Or what if she's not as sensitive as you are, and that's okay? That it's just a different nervous system, not a better one, not a right one, but just a different one. And that concept, I remember the moment when I fully understood the difference between your way is right, my way is wrong, versus your way is different from mine. I was sitting in a Kohl's parking lot having a conversation with my ex-husband as we were going through the process of separating and ultimately getting divorced. And I remember saying those words to him. I have finally come to understand that it's not that your way is right and my way is wrong. It's just my way is different from yours. And the relief, like I felt it in my body. I felt my shoulders relax. I felt the exhale to actually say those words out loud and believe them, to no longer believe that his way was right and my way was wrong. And I know I'm talking about a man here, but I have done it with women too. And I know that we do it all the time. And it still happens sometimes. But what I realized is that my sensitivity and your sensitivity has never been the problem. It is the war that we have waged against our sensitivity. And fighting what you feel does not make you feel less. It just adds that second layer of harm on top of the first. It adds that shame and judgment and all of those really heavy feelings that are so painful. It just adds that on top of what already feels like really big emotions. And I know there is a part of you that believes if I stop fighting this, I will fall apart. And that fear makes so much sense. Because for a long time, fighting your emotions has felt like the only thing that is holding you together. And you've gotten very, very good at it. But stopping the fight doesn't mean that you then begin giving into every feeling that you have and just let them have like full control. It doesn't mean that you will spiral more or that you are going to lose yourself in those emotions. It means that removing that second layer, that shame, the self-judgment, the commentary that eventually turns into a full-blown like identity crisis and self-hatred potentially, it just removes that layer. And where you find yourself now, if you have that second layer, is that you're not just feeling something, you're feeling that something, and then you are reacting to yourself for feeling that. And that really is like a two-front, if not more, war. Definitely a two-front war. And when that second layer drops, there is a subtle but very real shift, and the feelings are still going to be there. Those emotions are still going to come up. You might even still have some of that tightness in your chest or the lump in your throat or your shoulders raised, but now it's just an experience that you learn how to work through and move through. And it's no longer evidence that you are wrong or bad or broken. It's not a verdict on, who you are and how you are wired. It's just something that is happening. And in that space where we kind of pause before we add the second layer, it just kind of lessens the urgency and the panic about what that first emotion you are feeling means. And this idea of our emotions and our sensitivity being a bad thing is kind of unanchored sensitivity. We haven't learned how to accept it. We haven't learned how to work with it. And we're trying to treat it as a problem versus a trait. Like a trait like I have red hair, I have blue eyes, I have freckles. Those are traits about me. I have sensitivity. That is a trait about me. And when we stop looking at it as the problem and view it more as just a trait about us, then there's a shift. Because prior to that shift, when we see it as a problem, then we start borrowing a reference point from somewhere else. And we have this sensitivity that is unanchored. And so we're trying to get anchored, but we're outsourcing that. And we're trying to get it from someone else or somewhere else and saying, like, they're doing it right. Their way is right. And so I'm going to go anchor to that. And then in the process, we create this pattern of comparison. And then comparison becomes a tool. And our brains are really good at, I know how to do that, so I'm just going to keep doing that. And I'm going to keep going to this same tool that I have in comparison. And it doesn't feel really good, but I guess it's working. And what you end up having is this discomfort, and it comes from just not fully trusting yourself yet. And yet is so powerful here because it is possible to create a new tool and to learn how to trust yourself. Because the women that you have been watching, their way is their way for them, and your way is your way for you. And outsourcing that is really where the root of the struggle is. And we're going to shift it and come back to trusting yourself and your own intuition and the way that you were wired. And this return to yourself, this is where the work starts to get easier, the emotions get actually a little bit quieter. And I'm not saying that you don't feel the big emotions, you absolutely do. But when you allow yourself to feel them and remove that second layer, you take away half of the war. And then as you work with the emotions, they become less and less scary. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not like flipping a light switch. There's no like single breakthrough moment. It's just a gradual coming back to who you are and who you are always meant to be. And it starts with one very simple practice, and it is noticing versus narrating. Because your brain, it defaults to something and it immediately turns into a story. And so this week, as you're going through your life and you're just day to day, just noticing when something comes up and you find yourself immediately interpreting it and adding the, why am I like this? And you start that kind of compare and despair. Let's just name what is physically happening with no meaning attached, no jumping to what it says about you. And that's where the self-trust is going to begin. And we stop the war against ourselves. And then when we stop the war, you become someone you can actually rely on, because now you've got your own back instead of attacking your own back. And you'll notice that you stop punishing yourself for needing more time. You're going to stop punishing yourself for when the tears come up and you're already angry, and then you're angry that you're crying, or you have the conversation and it was hard, and you start recovering quicker. Like, that's what the change is really going to look like. And it's because you don't have that added layer of resistance, and instead you've got your own back. And I just want to say, and I know that this has been said in a lot of ways, but you truly, like, the women that you have been watching and comparing yourself to, you don't actually know what's going on inside her. You only see what she's presenting to you publicly. And I know that it seems like you have been longing to feel less. But what I would really like to offer that could be true is that what you have really been longing for is to feel safe enough to feel what you feel versus to stop feeling entirely, and for it to not mean that there is something wrong with you. And this week, as you are going throughout your week, I really want you to take a moment, and anytime you notice things coming up, asking yourself this one question: where am I still at war with myself? Again, we're not trying to solve it. We're not trying to fix it overnight, just noticing, and maybe for the very first time considering that it is not a flaw in your design. It is not something that is broken that needs to be fixed. It's simply something that you've never been taught how to work with and how to view as just another trait, much like your eye color and your hair color and your skin color and all of those things. And if you're sitting with this and thinking, I don't want to keep doing this to myself, but I'm not sure what comes next, that's exactly why I wanted to share the One Step Healthier Summit. Just 5 short conversations, real tools, all centered around feeling better without turning on yourself in the process. I would love for you to be there day one. Come join me, and you can sign up for free using the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care.